Hi, my name is Anatoly Motkin. I'm president of StrategEast. And today our meeting is dedicated to the opportunities for the Gulf states in Central Asia and Caucasus as trusted IT destinations. Today, we are meeting here and we'll speak together with a member of Georgian Parliament, Mariam Lashkhi, who was just several years ago deputy head of JITA, Georgia's Innovation and Technology Agency. We're talking also with Sultonmurod Rasulov, responsible for international relations and IT PARK of Uzbekistan, with Avigail Menashe, who is head of IT Association of Kyrgyzstan, KSSDA, and with Jason Harman, who is vice president of EPAM Systems, one of the biggest or the biggest IT company, engineering company, who has vast presence in the Eurasian region. And Jason is responsible for the Gulf states in EPAM. So with your permission, I'll present what actually do we in StrategEast think about possible collaboration between the Gulf states and Caucasus and Central Asian region, and then I'll pass the floor to our distinguished guests. So, yeah. So we say you might be surprised by the title, the digital Mecca, but if you take the acronym of Middle East, Caucasus, and Central Asia, you get the word Mecca. And having this region as mostly populated by Muslim people with a high level of digital services in Central Asia and Caucasus, with high entrepreneurial skills and aspirations in the Gulf states, we think and we truly believe that it should be and might be one digital single market. So StrategEast, in a couple of words, is a leading independent institution developing to a Eurasian digital economy in collaboration with international financial institutions, global development agencies, with the global tech companies and the governments of the states. The region that we're talking about is populated by 150 million people, and they live in 11 post-Soviet countries, or we could say countries that restored or declared their independence after the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller, but still most of them have the same level of high level of fundamental studies, and they keep it, and it's actually a huge advantage in developing knowledge-driven economy in the region. In total, we have more than half million IT engineers in the region. Again, you could see Belarus, Ukraine, you could see Kazakhstan, you could see Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan and Georgia. All these combined is 550,000, according to conservative assessment, IT engineers. In total, those people and those countries, we could say, generate $11 billion of IT experts. And about 15,000 IT companies work in Eurasia. Some of them are big, like EPAM is S&P 500. Some of them are much smaller, but still those companies, most of them are generating experts for their countries. And we have more than 10,000 startups in the region. Most of these startups were accelerated by Silicon Valley-based accelerators, and this acceleration was funded by either the governments or the development agencies or other institutions. So some of those startups, as you will see in one of the next slides, achieved significant results. And here is a slide. We have PandaDoc from Belarus, who is in 2021, its value exceeded $1 billion. We have Thineo from Georgia with Anuki Robakidze, who won the pitch contest at Web Summit in Lisbon last year. We have a GitLab from Ukraine, who is Nasdaq listed company with capitalization that exceeds $11 billion. And we have Kaspi in the fintech that started as a startup, but today it's one of the major banks in Kazakhstan, and their capitalization at London Stock Exchange exceeds $14 billion. So when we're talking about the engineering companies, we're basically talking about companies who provide solutions for others. These are not one single product companies. And we see that you could see all these logotypes, you could recognize them. The products for those companies are being developed in the Eurasian region. And I believe that Sultonmurod and Jason and the other guests will tell what actually happens in their countries, but still the foundation for sustainable digital economy or IT industry comes at the first stage with digital proficiency and engineering companies. Although many prefer to start with the startups. Again, over the past year, especially amidst the war in the Eurasian region, new reality has emerged. The region of Central Asia and Caucasus is searching for a new strategic partner. And the GCC countries, the Gulf states, can and should become such a partner. So digital MECCA is the Middle East, Caucasus, and Central Asia, as I mentioned at the beginning, and it could become a digital single market. Look on the map. The distance between Saudi Arabia, Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Oman, and the Central Asian and Gulf states, and the Caucasus, it's not a big distance. When we look on the, again, if we'll try to summarize what I just mentioned previously, in one region we have more than 10,000 startups. We have population that in this specific region exceeds 93 million people, and the GDP is $400 billion. It's true that it's much smaller than $2.1 trillion in the Gulf states, but we see also the aspiration from a GCC to grow up. I just back from a major forum, BIBAN forum in Riyadh, where we brought 15 startups from Eurasia. We saw the appetite on the other side to invest and also to become part of innovative economy. Actually, the transformation from the natural resource-based model to diversified to a knowledge-driven one, it's actually the priority for the Gulf states as well. About the distance, look at this. It's maximum 4 hours direct flights from Saudi, from UAE, from Oman, from Qatar, from Kuwait. And by the way, I met many people there during my last 3 weeks visiting the Gulf states. And many of them told me that within the last maybe 2 years, 3 years, many of them visited at least Georgia or Central Asian countries. Some of them were in Azerbaijan. So actually the communication exists. We just need to transform it to more knowledge-based collaboration or synergy. So what actually digital MECCA should be based on? From our perspective, and it's open for discussion, it should be based on 3 components. Providing digital services by engineering companies with offices in Caucasus and Central Asia to the traditional business and public sector of the Gulf countries. Also, it's important to have the participation of venture capital from the Gulf countries in the development of the startup ecosystem originated from Caucasus and Central Asia. And the leading global engineering companies with a vast presence in Caucasus and Central Asia will set up a local R&D offices or centers with the highest level of expertise in the Gulf states, understanding that actually the local major companies need those services. It always should be based on win-win. It's the interest of the companies to expand and actually to open the new potential markets. But for the countries themselves, it's not only getting the highest level of digital services, which are much cheaper than they would get it from Silicon Valley, but also a knowledge transfer. These companies, the engineering companies, their advantage in comparison to vendors is that they bring new knowledge and not only trying to actually promote specific product. So just sorry for so bringing together the Middle East, Caucasus, and Central Asia, we formed the digital MECCA. The digital MECCA is a digital single market where intellectual passion, global entrepreneurial skills, and smart money from the Gulf combined with cutting-edge technologies and innovations from the Caucasus and Central Asia will lead to the highest concentration of intellectual power, with global impact, based on Muslim wisdom since the algebra and algorithm invention, and will create a global center of digital excellence. So actually, I opened this discussion for our distinguished guests, and I would pass the floor maybe to Mariam. Georgia is an excellent example that if you work systematically, you could deliver tangible results just in 2.5 years. Uzbekistan is much bigger. It's 10 times bigger than Georgia. Georgia is 3.5 million people, but just imagine that 3.5 years ago, there was not a single international IT company in Georgia that was exporting software. With the right reforms from the government, mainly the tax reforms, with support of companies, and EPAM was the first company to come into Georgia. Just imagine that the EPAM grew up in 2.5 years, even in 2 years, from 0 people in the office to 3,500 people in the office. So working properly, you could achieve tangible results. But also today we have more than 75 international IT companies, and actually, Mariam will tell more about this. But we have a thriving IT sector, and today the next stage in Georgia is developing the IT capacity in regional centers of the country to make it more equal, to bring in more, not only gender equality, but also regional equality to the country. So the most important thing about the IT is that the rule of law, transparency, equal opportunities are embedded into this industry. But it's also a huge opportunity for the Gulf states to invest into the market of Caucasus and Central Asia, actually to earn 10 times, or maybe on their investment, but also to attract the expertise, the engineering level from the region. So again, thank you so much. And with your permission, I'll pass the floor to Mariam for your remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Anatoly. First of all, sorry for my voice. And hopefully you'll be understanding what I'll be speaking. I will start my words with really expressing appreciation to Anatoly, who is, I would say, like a driver and a true believer of the development of not only IT industry, but the change maker in the countries, and who sometimes I call him Nokia, like connecting people. So he's the one who is putting the right people to right connections, which is making the real change. And this was the example what happened in Georgia. So maybe I will start generally talking about the region and the importance of digital transformation, and also I will bring some of the kind of examples of the receipt of Georgia case. I will not talk much about the importance of digitalization, but we see that the digitalization is rapidly transforming the world we live and has become a key driver of the economic growth, our social development and innovation as well. I really loved the branding of the region, MECCA. It on the one hand has the kind of the meaning, which will be really developing the MECCA in our region. And also on the other side, it is important the connections between the regions which are named under the MECCA abbreviation. The region is really large and has a useful population, which presents both opportunities and challenges for digital transformation. Therefore, there is a really need to focus on harmonizing the digitalization standards. And when Anatoly was talking about digital single market, this is meant to have, on the one hand, the shared vision for digitalization, which is put on the highest level on the policy, the trust, the cooperation among the stakeholders to address the issues, including the data protection, including the intellectual property rights, as well as the cybersecurity. So when talking about some of these standards, and when we are talking that there is not a single recipe for every country how to develop the digitalization, we see that some of the important steps should be taken to everywhere, and this can be copy-pasted in every region. One is that and when talking about the Georgia's case, first of all, when Anatoly was also mentioning that the baseline for developing the innovation and technologies in Georgia was developing the democracy, and democracy is the thing where the innovation is really boosting. When in country we have on the one hand the rule of law, when we have the trusted institutions, as well as when there is no corruption, because we see that in some of the countries when they were supporting the startup ecosystem, due to the approach of the corrupted background from the Soviet era, the innovation could not be boosted, right? So we see that, and when talking about the experience of Georgia's Innovation Technology Agency, one of the key driver was that we have decreased the corruption almost into the zero level, which has been also acknowledged by the World Bank and international institutions. And on the other side, in the environment, in democratic environment, it's way easier to, on the one hand, attract the international players, and on the other side, boost the intellectual resources which are existed in the country. Georgia, comparing to the Gulf countries, is not having the oil or any other natural resources to rely our economy, and therefore, we were truly believing that the intellectual resources which is in the country is oil, gold, and everything, so that we had to utilize the resources and develop the ecosystem based on the knowledge-based economy. And I truly believe also that the countries, the Gulf countries, now are transforming their approach as well, because the oil and natural resources relied economies are decreasing and decreasing. So the intellectual resources increasing its importance. On the other side, like we have developed the institutional framework. On the one hand, it was the policy, high-level policy vision that we have to develop the knowledge-based economy. And as Anatoly also mentioned, it was a systematical approach which was useful, because otherwise, it would be like if not the systematic approach and all stakeholders involvement, we would not be able to achieve the numbers we have achieved together. Then the important was that the institutional framework was developed by the Innovation and Technology Agency, which was developing the programs, incentivizing programs for startups as well as the IT industries. I remember the day when me and Anatoly were participating in IT forum in Tashkent, when we were just sharing the ideas during the panel discussion. And these ideas were really fulfilled. And this was like a really MECCA and big ideas by bringing the top-level IT industries in the country, working with the global leaders. And maybe at the first sight, it was just a dream, but this dream was fulfilled in few months. And in few months, it was able to do, because on the one hand, we identified some of the leaders from the institutions who believed in the approach, and then we worked hardly on the one hand, developing the environmental framework for the big companies to be attracted in the country. And with this, we have developed the law and also the tax incentive. So we decreased taxes for IT industries who were exporting the softwares and IT knowledge by 5%. So this was also one of the incentives which we were having as a talking point to the IT industry, and especially with EPAM. On the other side, government, and it has to have like a long history for developing the use and the skills, which is important for driving any, like if you are a big IT company, on the one hand, you want trusted and relying environment, IT-friendly regulatory framework, But the second question, which the IT industry representatives were asking, is an IT skills force. So the IT skills force was important that, again, it had to be systematic approach from the school level, ending up with universities, vocational education, and to have the stronger IT workforce on the side. And then on the other side, it was important to also have fun environment, and I mean with this with the companies and also the IT industry representatives really want to have the environment when you can enjoy living in the country. And this was kind of a combination of like in the package, which was important to attract the IT industry. Now, in parallel, like in IT industry as a big player, IT company with its workforce, with its intellectual resources was coming in the country. And in parallel, the startup industry was developing by the matching grants we were providing from the agency. So the one is the service providing, and another one is the intellectual R&D development in the country. So this was kind of a combination. I truly believe that in our century, one or two countries cannot make the big change, and we need to have the regional approach in order to have a resilience in the region, to strengthen the region, and then to support each other. We were competing like you are achieving best when you have when you're competing with yourself, right? So we saw this during the COVID pandemic, that we enabled the remote work, the learning and facilities of e-commerce, as well as enhancing the communication and collaboration. This was kind of the approach which has accelerated the process when this black swan, so-called the COVID-19, was entering the world, right? So I truly believe that with the regional approach, and I love the MECCA approach, this will be helping on the one hand to definitely in each of the countries to develop the innovation and technology with rapid adoption of mobile services, as well as social media, the growth of e-commerce and online marketplaces, as well as to integrate the emergence of the new technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, or IoT and everything. But when having the regional approach and harmonizing all the standards, it will help us to ensure the workforce is utilized in each of the countries, and with the cross-border partnerships, including promoting the cross-border trade, investment, and innovation, will really make the changes. As well as when Anatoly was mentioning about the kind of recommendations, it was really a nice way so that each of the countries will be putting their competitive advantage on the table, and will share the kind of utilize from each of the region what is the best and what is the high potential from the region. So I really believe by working together that the region can unlock the full potential of the digital economy, and also will create a brighter future for our people. I know if you want me, Anatoly, to mention any additional things, but one of the things which maybe I did not mention when talking about creating the trusted IT destination is that when we kind of made this negotiation with EPAM, and EPAM was really kind of entering the country right even before they were fully transformed in our country, already other followers of the big players were asking about the potential of Georgia. So at least when you have one global player in the country, you will be sure that others will be following. And even like one of the Silicon Valley venture capitalists who was making the presentation in Georgia about VC fund creation, the guy was telling me that the second day after the presentation and after the press release was issued, in morning he had more than 300 emails in his inbox asking about Georgia, asking about the potential in the country and environment in the country. So I'm sure that when we will be kind of branding in a right way our MECCA region, and we'll be having one good example, then the followers will be on the board as well. And again, thank you to Anatoly, who made this happen, to have, after really few months later from our discussion, to have on board EPAM. And right away we had Axadel, we had Viber and others, and still we are continuing the discussion with other big players. So thank you, Anatoly, for this. And I will make sure it will be from the regulatory framework, from Parliament, or whatever in my capacity to boost this idea, because I truly believe that in our region we have to work closely on utilizing the resources and transforming our country into digital era. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Mariam. Another example of fast exponential, I would say, growth of IT industry is Uzbekistan. And I could recall that I was invited by the nowadays Minister of Digital Transformation. He was then an executive minister, Mr. Sherzod Shermatov. And I made it to Tashkent on May 2018. And still the connectivity was very poor, and there were just several local IT companies. And today, when you look on what has been done, thanks to the efforts of the ministry and the IT park that is being represented here by Sultonmurod, you actually have absolutely different landscape. I could just mention, and one of those who are watching now, I told yesterday that just several years ago, each young gentleman in Uzbekistan was dreaming to become either policeman or prosecutor, because you know how to earn money in those positions. Today, it's either prosecutor, policeman, or IT specialist. And it actually makes us and makes the park and the ministry responsible for 33% of dreams of Uzbeki youth, and it's very important. So I would like to pass the floor to Sultonmurod to explain actually what is the special recipe of Uzbekistan's digital miracle, but also actually to present what are the opportunities for other regions working together with Uzbekistan and with IT companies, global IT companies based in Uzbekistan.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me, and I hope you can see me all. First of all, Anatoly, thank you so much for bringing us together, for organizing these kind of webinars and giving us the opportunity to get connected with each other and to be able to promote and showcase our potential. Mariam, thank you very much for a very informative talk. I was really impressed. Truly, over the past couple of years, since the beginning of all these activities, since 2019, actually, there has been a tremendous growth in terms of the jobs created, the number of jobs created across the country, the opportunities created, as well as the export increased, export of IT services increased in the country. When we started back then in 2019, there were only a couple of companies which were in the market with an overall export of around $600,000. And in the presentation that Mr. Motkin mentioned and showed in the beginning, there was $46 million of export from the Uzbek market, and that, I want to tell you, that is the number from 2021. The export of services in 2022, last year, we were expecting no less than $100 million of export. It exceeded $140 million of export, in fact. And just a couple of weeks ago, the president of the Republic of Uzbekistan was having a meeting with the key players of the IT sphere in the country, and has set the new targets. And one of the main targets was to increase the export of services by this year by of at least $300 million. And according to our expectations and according to the tempo and the speed and the reforms that we are currently doing and the projects we're running, we are very much optimistic about this set target. If I'll tell you briefly about IT Park, what is its recipe, what has it been doing, and so on. IT Park is the state-owned organization under the Ministry of Digital Technologies of the Republic of Uzbekistan. But it is a private company. It's a limited liability company, and we are one of the main developers and accelerators of the IT and BPO ecosystem in Uzbekistan. And this project, IT Park, was actually created under the initiative of the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan after his visit to India, where he saw a huge potential. And as you may know, Uzbekistan is a doubly landlocked country, and the export in classical terms is quite challenging for us. When it comes to the export of IT services, you only need knowledge and service, which can be exported online. You just need the internet. Nowadays, we're getting huge support. And since the beginning, we've been getting a huge support from the government, from the Prime Minister's office. And even when we were having the opening ceremony of the IT Park cluster, the Prime Minister took part himself together with the President, and Prime Minister was meeting with a number of companies, asking what else can be done in Uzbekistan, what kind of conditions should we be creating, what are your needs, so that the Uzbekistan can become the regional IT hub, right? At IT Park, we provide the tax preferences for the IT and BPO companies. And when it comes to IT, we provide the tax preferences for software development companies, service-oriented companies, IT outsourcing and consulting companies, as well as business process outsourcing companies, not related to hardware, right? And at the moment, there are more than 1,200 companies that have become the residents of IT Park, and since last year we have been experiencing a large influx of foreign companies to Uzbekistan, which are setting up their representative office, R&D development, R&D centers in Tashkent and across the regions. We provide the tax benefits, meaning that there are no any corporate taxes, there are no social taxes, there is no VAT on the imported goods and services, and there is a personal income tax which is also lowered from 12% to 7.5%. Apart from that, there are a number of preferences programs for the foreign companies which are entering the Uzbek market, meaning that there is a simplified process of the company's entrance to market within maximum a week. Company can be fully set up in Uzbekistan with all this paperworks, bank accounts, and others. IT Park can help with that. And apart from that, we launched the IT visa, which is given to 3 categories of people: founders of IT companies, IT specialists, coders, programmers, as well as the investors in the field of IT. That is valid for 3 years, up to 3 years, and gives the equal social rights as the citizens of Uzbekistan. Yeah. And apart from that, we have the relocation program, which was done last year, which was absolutely free of charge, and comprised of meeting the expats from the airport, transporting them to any location in Tashkent, assisting them with documents, and even organizing cultural events for them to get adapted to life in Uzbekistan. And you may ask, who are our residents? What kind of residents are we looking for, and what do they do? We are trusted by a number of customized software development companies, mobile applications development companies, as well as game development companies, not talking about the BPO companies, which are already a lot in the domestic market, but international BPO companies are also entering the Uzbek market, like Dynino International, the US-based call center company, Mighty Call, and others. We are trusted by the software development giants like EPAM Systems, Exadel, Qlix, G-Core Labs, Yandexgo, iTransition, the founders of World of Tanks, Wargaming, and others. Yeah. And they mostly export the services like software development or call center services. Yeah. And among the main export destinations, we can say that right now, 81% of the export goes to the market of the United States of America, then the UK, Germany, and other markets. And we are now preparing some new more strategies to increase the export to different countries. And the project of Digital MECCA is really much important to us and very interesting to us. And we are developing the new strategies on how to reach to the GCC countries and how to establish cooperation with them. There are, as Anatoly mentioned in the beginning, there are those three pillars, those three cooperation offers. We are interested in the possibility of IT outsourcing so that the projects can be implemented in the Central Asian regions, in Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, because in the region we are why to work with us. There are a number of factors, but what we can say is it's a very high quality service. Another thing is cost effectiveness. Another one is multilingual workforce and a relatively affordable labor force. Yeah, not talking about the government support that each of the countries in the Central Asian region get, and the political stability. And now it's the high time to enter not only the Central Asian region, but the whole CIS region, the Caucasus, as well. So we are open, as Uzbekistan, we are open to any possibilities of networking, any possibilities of cooperation. You know, I won't dive into the details of what IT Park does, but just to give you a brief update, we have a number of projects on a Republican scale. We have a number of educational projects, which is 1 Million Uzbek Coders platform together with Coursera, which is the launch of the IT Park University together with EPAM Systems, and a number of other projects that we are currently doing. There is the special incentive offer for the BPO companies that are entering Uzbekistan. We have an investment offer of up to $100,000, which gives, if the company is entering the market, we're ready to fully equip them with the office space, renovation, equipment, technical equipment, and others, so that the company can come and plug and play, just start working. Yeah. In the market, there is a tremendous popularity now in terms of the IT, and as Anatoly mentioned before, when we were starting, we were also working on breaking the stereotypes. The parents of young people were not willing to, so that their children will be pursuing the career in IT, and everybody, especially in the faraway regions, were thinking about maybe lawyer or dentist or person in the hospital, teacher. And when it comes to IT, like, what will you do in IT? Yeah, no, especially for women, for female part, there shouldn't be the coder or programmer or an IT specialist from our family and so on. But the time has changed, the time has passed, and now we see a tremendous interest from the younger generation, not in Tashkent, but across the whole region, and we're very much optimistic about the future. And about this year's plans of ours, we are launching the international. We're launching the International Financial Center in Tashkent, including digital bank and other forms. Where we're also cooperating with our neighboring countries to organize the trade house in a number of different countries. So that's basically it from my side. I hope I was informative, and if you have any questions or any proposals, we are open for collaboration. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sultonmurod. And I know that you have to leave us in 20 minutes. Maybe you would be able to maybe to stay a little bit more. But I would like to pass the floor to Avigail. And Avigail is actually the living spirit of IT scene and industry in Kyrgyzstan. We are doing a lot of stuff together. We're trying to bring the donors together and many other programs together. But beyond the joint programs, she does much more. And if you would be able to present to our audience what actually the IT industry of Kyrgyzstan is, please try to squeeze it into 10 minutes if you can.
Sure. Thank you so much. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you so much once again, Anatoly. It's a great pleasure to work with you. I think the work you're doing for all our countries is hard to measure. It's very valuable to us, and we appreciate it a lot. Thank you, Serdar. It's a great presentation, and we are like fascinated by our neighbors' progress. And I think that's this region is going to be growing rapidly year by year. Okay, let me start. So my name is Avigail Menashe. I am the CEO of Kyrgyz Software and Services Developers Association. And welcome to this meeting. It's a great honor for me to present my country. So I would like to start with what Kyrgyzstan provides. It does provide secure, reliable, stable IT services, and the government supports, gives tax reductions, and then we can say that Kyrgyzstan is in top 3 around the world for the cheapest, the fastest mobile internet around the world. And not only internet is affordable and fast, but also other infrastructure like energy and telecommunications are very affordable. So the potential of Kyrgyzstan, we can say it's a landlocked country, but now we say we don't have an access to the sea, but we do have an access to the ocean, which is internet.
Abigail, if you can just turn on the camera, if you can, please.
Oh, it is on. I think since I'm demonstrating my screen, maybe it's this why it's not showing. I apologize for that. So we can say in 2011, our association created High Technology Park. So we can say what's special about Kyrgyzstan, it's very democratic. We're called often as Island of Democracy. So this a lot of initiatives are coming from the bottom to the top, but also supported by the government a lot. So our IT sector looks like very, very export oriented. So for as of 2020, 2021, 2022, 80%, more than 80% of the entire software being developed, they are exported to US, Japan, Canada, and other countries. And then we can say that, as our neighbors already mentioned, that Central Asia, entire Central Asia, including Kyrgyzstan, has really, really good demography. So it would be 65% for working age and 30% for young age from 0 to 11th grade, and only 5% for retired. Yeah. So as you might be aware, it is Soviet heritage that mathematics, physics are really developed in the schools, and then the interest in IT is growing every year. Like now we have a lot of young people, especially after COVID, a lot of young people wanting to acquire this new profession, and we can say that there are like many IT boot camps, IT faculties of the universities. And if you were to tell about the main things, it's the high quality. Since we've been exporting for more than a decade, and we've been exporting around 42% of entire exports to the US. So since we've been working with the US, Singapore, Japan, our business processes, the quality of English, the quality of writing code, project management have been increasing rapidly year by year. That's why we do provide high quality, good infrastructure, cheap electricity, government support, workforce, human potential is really growing, and visa-free entry for a lot of countries, including Western and European and many countries. Fast and cheap internet, not only mobile but also optical. So special tax programs. So this is one of the main things which boosted the tax sector. So it would be profit sales tax, value-added tax, decreased income tax. So 000 by many types of taxes. And for each employee, it's like insurance promise 12%, but not 12% from the salary that someone is paying, but from the average salary in Kyrgyzstan. So which would make only $30 to $40 fixed. And there's only one type of tax which applies if you're an IT company and if you do export. So starting from last year, the status of digital nomad visa has been implemented, and then the first time, I think this initiative is like first time in the world. The Park of Creative Industries. This park gives tax preferences for like really good tax preferences for more than 60 professions, including designers, music producers, so all the people who are like who call themselves creative. A lot of professions are now have this tax exemption. Tech education institutes, and they prepare for a few markets. And if we talk about how does our companies, what are the main focus would be software development for 54%, business processes outsourcing 40%, and other services for 5%. And this is how our high technology park has been growing. We're proud to say that it's doubling each year. So this has been tendency from 2020, 2022. Yeah. So what we focus on is like a lot of our companies, they focus on full cycle. So starting with idea and until production and technical support and so on. So we do have ownership and accountability, exceptional engineers. As I said, because of their experience of working abroad, working with companies abroad, and so on. Another great thing that we do is we prepare entire classes for the needs of the companies. So we have tailored courses where we talk, it's a B2B product where we talk to their companies on what they need. And now we see that they not only need hard skills, but also soft skills. So we tailor, we select the companies together with the companies, and in the end, they hire them. So now we're working with 2 markets, and soon to be other programs with Japan and Korea are launching very soon. So these are some of the names that our companies work with. So yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of them. And as the colleague said already, yeah, there are big names who are trusting this market. There are Japanese companies who've been doing their research and also opened branches in Kyrgyzstan because they see that the tax preferences are really good, and then they can hire people. And in here, people are very success hungry. Yeah, so they try really hard. Some of the people are ready to yeah, for really big competition to just get this internship and get the job. So we can say that there are like a lot of great advantages of working together, and we frequently travel to Arab countries, and our governments are in like very good international relations, and I hope that we will be complementing each other, and we'll be unified, or we'll have unified projects. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abigail. And I would like to pass the floor to Jason. And EPAM, it's not just another IT company. It's actually the IT company who's responsible for entire setup of thriving IT industry in Eurasia. It started from Belarus. It also moved to other countries. And 3 years ago, I believe, 2.5 years ago, they started developing Central Asia and Caucasus, and today we have, again, as I mentioned, 3,500 people in Georgia. We have more than 1,000 in Uzbekistan. We have more than 1,000 in Kazakhstan. They opened their office 1.5 years ago in Kyrgyzstan after our forum there. And I would like, Jason, maybe as you to ask you to present EPAM on both capacities. First, actually your role in the region, and actually your judgment on the advantages of the region. But second, also to your capacity as Vice President responsible for the Gulf states, how does it look like from your perspective? What should be the nature of this collaboration?
Thank you, Anatoly. Yes, so let me first talk about our opportunity from a supply side, I guess I would consider it that way, from Central Asia and the Caucasus. So EPAM, what we are, is a software engineering company. And what we've been doing, so traditionally what we were working on is more kind of outsourced software product development services for companies like SAP and Oracle and Microsoft and various others. But more, I guess, latterly, the world has become involved in digital transformation. And so those kinds of hardcore software engineering skills coupled with a broader technology capability is in huge demand. And we found those kinds of skills in the right availability and the right, I guess, the right scale and price point to serve that market, like you say, in our traditional markets, which were in Central and Eastern Europe, across that region. I think it was a while ago, actually, that we started working within Kazakhstan, and then more latterly, Georgia and Uzbekistan. We saw in a kind of global battle for talent, what we're looking for is countries that are going to be, provide a destination for people to move to, so because it's a very nomadic community. Two, that are going to have the kind of educational and regulatory framework to support an expansion of business. And three, I guess, have the kind of education that will allow us to influence and grow digital skill within those regions. So we see the Central Asian and Caucasus regions. So within that, we include Kazakhstan, we include obviously Georgia, and we include Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and we also have actually quite a lot within Turkey as well, interestingly. We see those as very, very fertile grounds. So it's an excellent place for us to be able to do our work. Now, I think that some of your slides also were highlighting, I would call the proximity of those locations to the Middle East or the Gulf states, right? So in the way that we work, so quite often we are involved in a lot of agile transformation activity, and it's really important for us to have easy accessibility and mobility from regions and some time zones to work collaboratively with customers. So that Central Asian part we now find is working incredibly well with our GCC region. So overall, it's a great story. I think that one of the accelerations that has happened, or the differences that's happened more recently, we're already diversifying our global talent pool, but some of the the war in Ukraine, for example, accelerated some of that move, and we found that the countries that are represented here by my peers on this panel were very receptive and very accommodating for us to be able to move those people. Now, I've been in EPAM for 15 years, so I actually started the UK operation and have seen it grow to become an S&P 500 organization. And I've been doing business in the Gulf states for a while, but I think that more recently we've decided to look at the area as a strategic location for change. Now, one of those is economic, I think. So there's a general view that the Middle East will fare slightly better in the current turbulence, right? So it's a bit of a port in a storm. And secondly, what we see is a huge appetite for change, certainly in terms of digital transformation. So the diversification program that you've talked about, the digitization at a national level, which is happening, obviously everyone knows about the 2030 program in Saudi, but there's also a 2030 program in Qatar, and there's a 2030 program in Abu Dhabi in the Emirates. So there's a significant amount of change that's going on, which means that there is a very, very strong need for the kinds of skills that are present in the Central Asian and Caucasus region, and obviously a very, very strong need for the sorts of talent and services that we bring. So it's a great opportunity for me, because I've now been asked by my boss, who's the CEO, to really push the region as a strategic growth area. So I see it as pretty exciting. I'm also, I think, pivoting a lot of our supply chain, I would call it, supply side, to the CCA region, specifically for the GCC countries. So what else can I say? I mean, I think that as a company that is really, basing our growth and our overall strategy on being able to find and grow talent, it's a great combination. I think that what I also see is within the Gulf regions, there is this need for, nothing's done on a small scale here. So there is this sort of tremendous need for I think, skill, but also I think people are looking for to also develop and diversify their economies. So what we're also doing is that we're looking to, we're actively building out capabilities within the Gulf as well, as part of this initiative. So focusing on more around kind of data and analytics and AI, and then within kind of verticals in energy and sustainability, which are driving a lot of the agenda. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. So maybe if I will open the floor for a discussion, and Avigail, if I'll ask you've traveled many times both to Japan, Korea, then US, then back, and you always seek for regional collaboration internally in Central Asia when you make all these Central Asian focused events, but also you're looking for new customers and new markets out of the region. And now, without the slides, what do you think makes the region that we're discussing, the Central Asia and Caucasus, attractive for foreign, at the beginning, for the foreign customers, those who actually consume the digital services? Like, why not India? Why it's you? If you would pitch somebody.
Yeah, thank you so much. So that's a great question, actually. We've been traveling and establishing this good connections. And yeah, I would say that the way the Central Asian governments are taking this digitalization and IT is like very, very important to highlight. All the three countries, yeah, in Central Asia, they have like amazing tax programs. And yeah, of course, we will talk about human potential. So we could say that since we've been working and we have developed this expertise, this is the quality that we are proposing, and then really for really good competitive pricing points. Of course, we respect India, we learn from India, we do have partners, but so I think that's a little different would be that we are not India like population wise, we're not many of us. That's why we highlight the quality and product ownership and the people. So the people are born bilingual, and that they also learn and improve their English and so on. So yeah, I would highlight two things. One is the demography and the motivation of the people, their work ethic, the quality they provide. The second is expertise that we already been working with leading markets, learning from them, and this is how we became internationally competitive.
Yeah, thank you. And Mariam, when you look on Georgia, what do you think what should be digital Georgia in several years, in 1-2 years from now, but also in terms of regional or cross-regional collaboration? Like, what are the priority markets for Georgia? And also, when we say for Georgia, we definitely mean companies like EPAM, who actually have vast presence and have actually the highest level of expertise in the country, but still we're talking about the local engineers.
Well, thank you, Anatoly. It was really nice to hear from my colleagues and real achievements. For instance, after my visit in Uzbekistan, so many things have been changed, and I'm really happy to hear also from Kyrgyzstan what has been achieved in this short time of period. This is the demonstration and illustration of the will from the high level from the government on the one hand, but also the people who are making this environment happen. With regards to the digital Georgia and also cross collaboration, then to answer your question, the short answer is that my PhD thesis now is dedicated to digital Silk Road, and I'm kind of writing how the region has to, first of all, harmonize the digital services, have the data protection on board, and also promote the skills in the countries and how to integrate with the EU digital single market. So the harmonized kind of global world and our continent at least. And this is what I'm pursuing now, and I'm having really good results with the concrete econometric formulas, including one thing is that I'm analyzing the global rankings, for instance, the Network Readiness Index, Innovation Index, and so on and so on, where we are performing, each of the countries are performing in it. And the digital country, digital Georgia or digital Kyrgyzstan, is on the one hand when we understand that lots of the professions are disappearing, we have disrupted professions, and we have to have right concentration on the digital skills and develop the resources who will be utilizing and who will be developing. On the other side, we have to, I see, during this analysis, how important is artificial intelligence and focus on it, because we are creating the content nowadays, and we have to be cautious about the content we are creating in order then AI to have the right analysis and right comment of the implementation of so many things which AI is doing. On the other side, it's very important to decrease the level of the bureaucracy through the digital services which the government will be doing. And when talking also on the impact of economic growth, or when talking about the international trade, we know how important it is to integrate these services, digital services, within the government and within the governance in it. On the other side, the digital country is really like I truly believe about the private sector, who are the key drivers of all the changes. And when you have the global leaders such as EPAM, and thank you, Jason, for the for your speech and the approach of the healthy approach of the company, when you have the global leader who is on the one hand fulfilling the government's vision about the skills development, about job creation, about digitalization of the services. So I truly believe that you have to have the right companies on board who are making, who are executing the government vision, and who are dictating government what should be the policies implemented and programs implemented. As for the cross-cutting relations, I was participating in so many cross-regional meetings or economic councils and so on. And sometimes it becomes like a toast when the high levels are meeting and talking about the vision of their partnership. And in order to make these toasts really execute, we have to come up with the concrete projects. There are so many economic councils which we have, for instance, with the Uzbekistan, with the Kyrgyzstan, with the regional countries, and these government officials are participating. Unless we are not including the concrete programs and concrete projects in it, and bringing the delegation, the private sector representatives to bring on the table the real joint project, without it, the toasts and the visions will be put on the paper only. So I'm sure that we have to come up with a concrete project together with the private sector and sit together and integrate in already existed platforms such as economic council meetings, integrate in existing platforms the projects, concrete joint projects, to just test and make it pilot, and then I'm sure that this will be replicating it. So it's very important to have cross-sectoral participation, both the government and private sector, and include on the table together with when having these cross-regional high-level meetings as well. This is kind of a short receipt from my side.
Thank you so much. And we have some question from the audience. Let's try to address the question to us. Cameron.
Hello?
Yeah, please, we hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for inviting for this very useful platform, and to be able to get an updated information about the current situation in the IT industries across Caucasus and Central Asian markets, and the potential cooperation and activities with GCC countries. Based on what I've heard, I have two questions to address to the reputable speakers. One would be related to the examples of GCC investment into IT industry of Central Asian Caucasus companies and environments. And the second question would be, what position does GCC take as a whole range of countries in Central Asian and Caucasus IT companies and associations export strategy? Thank you.
Yeah, who would like to answer?
Maybe I can start if I correctly understood your question. So, for instance, with the concrete examples on the investment side, one thing I'm sure that in order to kind of have the examples, what StrategEast does is the real work to have the concrete examples in it, and this has been happened with EPAM example, and so on and so forth. On the other side, what GITA was doing in order to have this similar thing was we brought from Silicon Valley 500 startups, the accelerator, and developed the regional project for acceleration, where the startups from the whole region could participate. And we already have several international, like from Azerbaijan, from Ukraine, or from, I guess, from Uzbekistan as well, some startups who are participating in this project. On the other side, with this accelerator, we have created the venture fund, where the additional kind of investors from the region can participate. And this is, on the one hand, utilizing the intellectual resources from the region, and on the other side, utilizing the smart money from the region. And this is the approach which was rare, because as you know, especially post-Soviet countries were not able to put the government money in the regional projects. So this was a good demonstration to invest from the government money to the kind of other country startups, intellectual resources, and also to make the funding to the startups from the region as well. I hope yeah. And the second question was about the position of Gulf countries. I'm not in a position to, I guess it was kind of combination of both questions answers.
Thank you, Mariam. And we have another question from anonymous participants. So I don't know whom should I provide with the floor. So I'll just read it out loud and I'll answer it. So what are some of the cultural and linguistic barriers that may need to be overcome for successful collaboration in the IT domain within the digital MECCA region? So I think that once somebody was asked what is the most important coding language, and the answer was English. So I think that people who are engaged in this industry, to become global, they need to be English speakers. And that's something that we face in different countries. Now we're implementing jointly with the BRD and IT trainings in the regional centers of Georgia and Azerbaijan. So work together with British Council to have English trainings for our applicants as well. There is no use for the smartest people who are speaking only their native language if the native language is not English. But the cultural difference do exist. With that, I think that the nature of MECCA region is that most of this region is populated either by people who are Muslim or people who have actually very similar mentality. And I had yesterday with a meeting with somebody in Doha, and he told me that, you know, I met people from Caucasus who are not Muslim in Beirut, and actually the same mentality, just a matter of faith. And it's true. So I think that much less cultural obstacles in collaboration between the MECCA region countries. With that, I think that, yes, it's true that some of the countries are living in some wealthier and different reality where they're the main investors globally, not only region-wise. Some other regions have more expertise maybe or digital skills, but have less financial ability. But I think, again, combined, it would be, I truly believe that it would be one of the major digital global centers and hubs. And getting back to Jason, I think that how do you see from perspective, like how would you say that could this concept of digital MECCA work when you have a development centers all across Eurasian region? With that, you have your office in Dubai and you have your colleagues who work in other countries of Gulf region. So how it could work from your perspective if it would be developed naturally?
So let's talk about, so just to answer the anonymous question first, and then I can answer your question in that context, Anatoly, if I may. So, what are the kind of cultural or barriers to, I guess, exporting software engineering or digital engineering capability from the region to the GCC? I don't actually see any right now. I mean, there are some specific kind of peculiarities of doing business, but those aren't really, they're not cultural blockers. I would say that it's typically what you find is that most people are speaking English. I mean, obviously we've been working out of Belarus, out of Ukraine, out of even Kazakhstan for more than a decade, and out of 30 plus years out of Belarus. So we've been serving principally US and Western European markets, and that there hasn't really been a blocker. I think that for the kinds of skills that we're providing, people speak the same language. We know how to get that to work. But I mean, I think that one of the things that we're definitely doing, certainly as what we call shift left, more in the terms of the services and the level of engagement that we provide. So we're not just kind of providing outsourced, please code something for me, here's some detailed instructions. We're often, engaging with clients at a consult level as part of that overall process. So understanding the what and the how, rather than just simply doing execution in cheap locations. In that model, what we're doing is we're working with a lot of people in a more distributed manner. So we have centers both in Dubai, so in the Emirates, in Saudi, in Qatar, where we have a more kind of mixed teams that are working across locations. In fact, that's how we would work. Does that answer the question, Anatoly? If I've missed something, let me know.
Yeah, I think so. And with some more questions. So do you think that
can I just quickly add a few
points? Yes, Mariam. Yeah, please go ahead.
So one thing with regards to the culture, so one is the common we have with the MECCA region is believing in God. And then the religion is distributed, and we have to have the approach to find the similarities and how we can utilize these similarities. On the other side, with the especially post-Soviet countries, we have the similarities of being in the same union for a while, whether it was good or not, but we were in the same union in post-Soviet, like Soviet Union, right? And we also have the similarity that majority of our nation and population knows more than 2 languages. So we knew that our language is not spoken by many people, so we had to learn either Russian, we had to learn English, and also additional like other languages, German or French or others. So we have the population who is a multi-language speaker, and this was also a competitive advantage when talking about the BPO services, that Georgians were speaking and covering like Russian-speaking countries as well as the English-speaking countries. So for instance, the international companies who were hiring the people were saying that, for instance, in India it was cheaper, but they had to hire 2 or more people to have these services for instance, Russian language countries or the English language countries. While in Georgia, they were taking one expert who was covering both languages. On the other side, when I was talking about democracy in my speech, I meant that in democratic environment, when you have liberal approach of the other religion representatives is also very important. And the demonstration of our old town is when the 5 different religious churches are at the same place, and when the population was living historically there without any fighting between each other, is also a nice demonstration how the multicultural and multi-religion representatives can live together and make the good environment. So I guess this is the advantage we have to take in all of our countries, find the similarities and have this cross-cultural collaboration.
Yeah, Anatoly, if I may
Please,
elaborate.
jump in here.
Okay. I just remembered like a really good point on the difference between India. We've been talking a lot with American partners that sometimes some of the people who are taking interviews and the people who will be actually working are different, and there are like a lot of questions like that. In our case, High Technology Park does audit. So the companies, if they're saying they have this amount of people, this amount of cases, and if they're saying they have this expertise, it is true, and it's like the government and the technology part gives a guarantee for that. And regarding the investment in Central Asia, UAE does like very, very active, I think, among all the GCC region, and mainly in infrastructure, food, tourism, and so on. But there are some cases where Dubai-based startup invested an Uzbek startup, and then it got partially purchased by Amazon. And there is a Kyrgyz startup there now in very active collaboration. It's a Muslim app for Muslim women. It's called Hijab. Very successful. Already has raised like a significant amount of the investment. And regarding this cultural commonalities, it is true that it's dominated, the Muslim dominated country. A lot of people are Muslims, and also it's very family oriented, value oriented, respect to older people, and also like with similar cultures, meaning we have like large families and all these relatives, they have really good relationships. And just want to elaborate on the last question, because Kyrgyzstan also has such a program, but it's not 1 million, but 50,000 programmers. And we've been running this for a couple of years now, and we do have experience on successfully training them, not only for local market, but for neighboring markets. And now we are going to German, Japanese, and US markets. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have 7 minutes left, and I would like to ask each one of us. This session actually attracted a lot of interest from our colleagues. Not all of them, actually the minority of them, were able to join us live, but they will definitely share the session itself and also policy recommendations of this session with them in all 6 countries. And I would ask you, what would be your policy recommendations for the maybe the policymakers on both sides, or to the market actors on the both sides, to make this region a natural center or hub of sharing digital knowledge and also sharing the digital services? Maybe I will start with Jason, and then I'll keep to Mariam and Avigail.
Okay, so just, I mean, so I'm not, obviously EPAM isn't a policy maker as such, but more of a services organization. So how could we make the community or the collaboration more effective? What I would do is I would encourage our colleagues in the GCC to, I guess, really take a deeper look at the kinds of skills and people that are available within the countries. You know, take a visit, get comfortable, you know, explore, experiment in a small way to begin with, just to test the region out, and you know, then when you look at sort of, let's compare countries, you know, or whatever, you know, the proof of the pudding is always in the eating, as we say in the UK. It's best to kind of test these things, and you'll see from an experience standpoint the difference. That's what I would encourage. Not a policy, more of a recommendation or request.
Thank you. And Abigail, maybe you.
Yes, so I would suggest, like what we do with IT PARK as well, is first we make like more detailed presentation, and then we can bring a few IT companies to present themselves, and then we do organize visits, vice versa, to the country, and also welcoming the delegation, organizing maybe a specific forum. For example, we are organizing a Japanese forum, and all the people who are interested and the companies are coming, where we can fully demonstrate and also have our high-level people from the government to listen what else is needed besides all the tax preferences, besides all gathering all the IT boot camps, universities who can potentially prepare really good IT talent, as well as the companies. And we usually get started with this kind of introductions, and some of the countries who are new to the market, they prefer to start with outstaffing before opening any kind of entity. They want to just get extended teams and then try, and if the credibility is earned, then move forward to something else. But on policy level, we are ready to, from the government side, from administration of the president, from private sector, education sector, we can start making this, organizing these meetings and move forward from there.
Thank you. And Mariam, do you have anything to tell?
Yes. So every policymaker is having in their agenda, in their action plan, regional dimension. And I would suggest that the policymakers make it more measurable, which will be demonstrated with concrete programs or projects initiated, such as the joint venture capital initiated for having the smart money flow within the region, and joint programs such as accelerators or startup exchange, as well as the e-government approach, which I believe that the e-government the government services, which will be outsourced for the IT companies, we can they can the policymakers can have it like a regional call of proposals. So that the IT specialists from Kyrgyzstan, from Uzbekistan can participate to make the new innovation in each of the country, which then can be replicated. So measurable indicators in the policy documents with concrete demonstration of the joint venture capital, smart money, and the joint programs.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Avigail. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Mariam. And thank you, Sultonmurod. And also thank you to Ola Sitnichenko, who actually assisted us to make all this happen. And I would just, wrapping up this session, I would say that it's true that to deliver tangible results, we need to bring people together. And the next things that we will do, we will organize on-site events in all 6 countries, or maybe at most of them, bringing the engineering companies and actors and ministers and the agencies from the Caucasus and Central Asian region to the Gulf states. And I believe that when the industry meets the potential customers, I think then something will spark, and I think that we'll move it much faster. It's true that we have Ramadan ahead, but right after Ramadan, we will resume this activity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anatoly, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Looking forward for working with you in the future.
Thank you, Abigail.